Hello and welcome to DoesQA. In this video we're going to explore some of the different settings, pages, configurations and some more of the interesting nodes that's built into our software. So picking up from the last video, we just created our first few test cases, and so by running those we now have a little bit of run history. So as you can see here, we saw some passes, then some failures, and then some passes again. What's really useful about this view is that you can really see the health of your pack. As it gets bigger and bigger, you'll be able to see a whole heap of passes, hopefully, and then you might see a little bit of regression come in and you'll see a number of runs in a row, and then it will go green again and it'll be stable. And what's really useful is looking at this little graph here. You can actually see whether or not the runs are in a consistent place. And so this is really useful, because when you've got a pack of hundreds of tests, just by seeing if the few red lines all match up in a line will tell you whether or not it's failing reliably in the same tests, or maybe there's a little bit of randomness going on and you need to look at the performance and stability of your system. Then we've got our flows view. Now what's quite cool is there is absolutely no limit to the number of flows you can create in Does, and there's also no limit to the number of test cases inside each flow. So you've got complete flexibility to build your test pack however you like, and if you put a lot of test cases into a flow and you want to change them at a later date and spread them out, you can just duplicate that flow, and it's a lot easier to just remove test cases from different ones. So you can really build your pack out however you like. As you're doing so, you're going to be creating elements, and those elements are stored in our element store. Let's just say a change has happened to the submit button, and now this is called, let's say this has now got a test ID. Then what we can do is we can just change this to a test ID and just make that change, and everywhere that is now used, the 3 locations have now instantly been updated. So as you're pushing out front-end changes, from time to time, you are going to need to update your elements, but you do them all from one central location. Another thing you might want to do is review some of your elements, your CSS selectors, your XPath selectors, and to see which ones maybe would be good to push back to the front end and say, could you give me something better than this? And this is a really good place to also do that. Now, all of these ones here are very simple. Value store is very similar to the element store, so it's another part of your system that you probably want to use in several different locations, and so we store these globally at the top level. Any value you create in the value store you can overwrite in CI/CD or a run recipe, which I'll show you in a minute. Then you've got the mail inboxes. Any of your tests that use the test email or the account email addresses that every single one of your tests has access to will generate an inbox. If you're using the account one, then you're on the account inbox when you come to this view, and any emails that get sent to that you can see here to sort of manually verify or to help build your tests out. So moving on to the settings, we've got general account settings here where you can see what your plan that you're on. You can set your max concurrency, so if you are on one of our paid plans which come with multiple runners, you can adjust this easily. So you can say, you know, unlimited runners at the top end, or you could say we want to set a specific number. Moving on, we've got team members, exactly the same as flows and test cases. We put no limitations on you at all. You can create as many team members as you like. There is no cost increase. We believe strongly that the more people involved in quality, the better it gets, and so we definitely don't want people just sharing passwords. The best thing you can do is just get everyone added to their own account. You can set whether or not they can manage other users, and you can say whether or not they can edit tests, so you can give people read-only access. Node groups, again, it's very similar to elements and values, but you probably will change them less often here. If you need to edit them, you can edit them from any of the locations they're used or the test results, or you can come here if you want to, and you can edit all of the nodes individually as well. Then we've got run recipes. Run recipes are really useful for when you want to run subsets of your pack, or you want to change the values that are stored in the value store for run. So for instance, you might have the values for locale are all in EN in the value store. You could create a run recipe that's going to run locale related tests, but you're going to pass in DE to make sure they all work perfectly in German. So you'd create a run recipe for that. You can put any of the values in an object format right here. They'll overwrite anything in the global store, and you can select any of the tags that you want. So you might want prod, let's say, not whip, and we'll only do the smoke ones, and then these values. And anything I put here, I can then trigger on the flows view. I can trigger it in CI/CD, and I can also trigger it in a schedule. So once I've got my recipe, I can come here, I can select my recipe, and I can set what time I want it to run, and it will run every day at that time. You can also say how many fails should happen before the schedule pauses as well. CI/CD, you can create webhook keys which enable you to integrate into any tool like Zapier or Make or anything you've got. Your GitHub Actions, we have an action for you, or Bitbucket pipelines. You can trigger your tests using your webhook keys. Moving on to notifications, you can set notifications so the specific members of staff will be emailed when your test fails, but maybe you're only interested if they fail on the schedule, for instance. So you can just set that right here, and you'll get an email saying your packet's failed. MFA, I will quickly show you. So if we create a new MFA, and at the same point you get the QR code, you can normally get a secret, and if you type that secret in here, we will generate an authentic code. You can paste that back, and then you've created that validated MFA token. So in your test, you will then be able to generate these codes, put them into inputs, and get past MFA protected logins. I think we're the first tool to have this built in. What we're going to do now is I'm just going to have a quick look through this node library with you. Yeah, go over some more of the interesting nodes. So you can see the MFA node here. There's also Open Plugin. So if you use Open Plugin anywhere in your test, this is a Chrome plugin. What we'll do is we'll install that Chrome plugin before the test starts, and then when you use the Open Plugin, we'll just open it. One of our customers in Web3, they needed to have access to Chrome plugin wallets, and so we built this feature for them. And of course, like all features we build for our customers in Does, it becomes available to everyone else. We also have the run browser script up here as well. So if you actually do require something that isn't currently built into Does, please let us know about it. But what we can do is we can actually give you that ability via the run browser script. You don't need to know code yourself. If there's something you need that can't be done in a node, we can provide the code for you, and we'll then provide the node so that you and everyone else can just drag it in. That's the way we like to work. Moving on, we've got a whole sequence of check nodes. Now, I really do want to say, sometimes you might think like, how do I check if something's enabled? So all of that is inside another node. So these are all different variants. You can see not clickable, clickable, enabled, disabled. These are all subvariants of the check state node. And so it's really worth exploring this. If you don't see the exact node that you're looking for, chances are we do have it, and it's just a subvariant of another node. And you can use the search to find that out as well. So for instance, check address, if I type in URL, it will still come up to make it really nice and easy for you. You can check files on SFTP, you can check all links are valid on the page. There's a whole sequence here, and you can check GTM events as well. We've got a whole section for controlling our runner, so you can tell it to stop if you want. If you've noticed, the test should just end here. If there's a certain element on the page, you can do that. You can generate files, PDFs and images that can then be uploaded. We've got the wait for nodes, everything you could possibly want to control our runner and where its focus is. You can do all that from here. Then we've got some change detection nodes. So this is where you'll find our visual regression snapshot node that compares two images. Also our change detection position node as well, which will just tell you if that element has moved. Then we've got our mail nodes, and you can wait for a specific email. If I just drag that in. And as you can see here, we can wait either on the test case inbox or the account inbox. We can either wait for a new email, or we can set up a custom rule, so where the subject contains welcome, for instance. Then we've got some validation nodes. So if you're familiar with Lighthouse, we have the full suite of Lighthouse nodes here. And then we've also got an additional accessibility node in the form of Pally, because PallyInit and Lighthouse, they check different accessibility things, and so you can create really robust accessibility checks inside Does. And then we've got a whole sequence of data nodes. The important thing is you can scrape any bit of content off of the page or out of cookies, or via any you can alias other things. You can do whatever you need to create things like taking a subtotal and the tax and the delivery and combining that into a total. You could do whatever you need to with the values and data on a page or in the value store. If you're familiar with Adyen testing, then you know that you have to keep going in and out of iframes. So we've created a specific node for exactly that. And there's also a node to trigger other tests in Does from another test. So you might want to log in once and get a session token, and then trigger a second pack passing that session token in, so they all start logged in. You can absolutely do that. Then you might need to seed a database or get something out of a CMS. You can do that with our API nodes. We've got Slack nodes, so you can just send messages to Slack. There's more SFTP. And then we've got a bunch of utility nodes. I showed the name in the test in the previous video, and in this one I'll show you the replace page text. Love this node. So what this will do in its default form is it will replace every bit of text on a page with a little smiley face. The reason we have this node is for checking CSS styling. If you're testing a news website, really like every bit of text on the page might actually change, and it becomes virtually impossible to do visual regression testing. And so using this node, you can replace all the text on the page or just within a certain element. You can either do it to a simple smiley face or a specific 150 characters. It's really good for finding CSS problems or any custom string you like. So as you can probably see, that we have had customers reach out with specific needs in the past, and we have continued to evolve Does to include every need that every one of our customers from all around the world and businesses of all different sizes to build the best possible test pack. That's everything for this video. If you have any issues or have any questions, you can always drop them in the comments, reach out via the contact form on the website, or if you're in your Does account, you can click help on any page and create a support ticket. We are really proud of our support, and we would absolutely love you to experience it. So reach out. Until then, happy testing.